One moment you are completely fine. The next moment your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. Your chest tightens like something is pressing down on it. You cannot get enough air. Your hands start to tingle. The room feels wrong somehow. Slightly unreal. Like you're watching yourself from a distance. And your brain is screaming one single thought. Something is very wrong. Something is very, very wrong. If you have ever experienced a panic attack, or if you are experiencing them right now, I want to be the first person to tell you something that may be the most important thing you hear today. You are not dying, you are not going crazy, and you are not in danger. What is happening to you is terrifying. It feels like the end of the world, but it is not. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what is happening inside your brain, second by second, during a panic attack. And then I'm going to show you the single technique that Stanford University researchers found works faster than meditation, faster than counting, faster than anything else currently tested in clinical research. It takes 30 seconds. You can do it in the middle of a panic attack. And the science behind it is extraordinary. My name's Dr. Alex. I'm a clinical psychologist. And panic attacks are one of the most misunderstood, most terrifying, and most treatable experiences in all of mental health. Let me prove that to you right now. A few months ago, I worked with a young man, 26 years old. Let's call him James. Software developer, healthy lifestyle, no history of mental illness. He was sitting at his desk at work one Tuesday afternoon when it happened for the first time. His heart began racing, his vision narrowed, his hands went cold and numb. He became convinced he was having a heart attack. A colleague called an ambulance. By the time paramedics arrived, the episode had passed. His heart was completely normal. His blood work was fine. He was sent home with a referral for a cardiologist, not a psychologist. Over the next 3 months, James had 11 more episodes. He stopped going into the office, he stopped driving, he stopped going to the gym because he was afraid exertion would trigger another one. His world got smaller with every attack. When he came to see me, the first thing I did was draw him a map of exactly what his brain was doing during those terrifying minutes. Because here is what nobody had told James. Nobody at the hospital, nobody at the cardiologist, nobody in 3 months of searching online. A panic attack is not a sign that something is wrong with your heart. It is not a sign that you are going crazy. It is a completely normal physiological fear response happening at a totally inappropriate time. Let me say that again because I want it to land. A panic attack is a normal physiological fear response happening at a totally inappropriate time. Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It just got the timing catastrophically wrong. Here is what is actually happening, second by second. It begins in a tiny region of your brain called the amygdala. 2 of them, actually, one on each side of your brain, roughly the size and shape of an almond. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system. Its entire purpose, the reason it exists, is to detect threats and respond to them instantly, before your conscious thinking brain has time to process what's happening. And here is the critical thing to understand. The amygdala doesn't think. It reacts. It doesn't stop to verify whether a threat is real before setting off the alarm. Its survival logic is this. It is better to respond to 100 false alarms than to miss one real threat. Speed matters more than accuracy. When your amygdala fires, whether the trigger is a real threat or a thought or a physical sensation it misinterprets, it sends an immediate distress signal to a region called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is your brain's command center for the body. It receives the signal and does one thing immediately. It activates your adrenal glands. Within seconds, we are talking 2 to 3 seconds from the initial amygdala signal, your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with adrenaline. And adrenaline is the most powerful biochemical event your body can produce. It changes everything, simultaneously, instantly. Your heart rate doubles or triples because your muscles need oxygenated blood fast. Your breathing becomes rapid and shallow because you need more oxygen intake immediately. Your blood vessels in your extremities constrict because your body is redirecting blood flow to your core organs and major muscle groups. Your pupils dilate because you need maximum visual information. Your digestion stops completely because digesting food is not a survival priority. Your hands and feet go cold and may tingle or go numb because blood has been redirected away from them. Your brain enters a state of hyper-focused, tunnel vision alertness, scanning for the threat. This entire cascade, every single one of these physical symptoms, happens in under 10 seconds. 10 seconds from amygdala signal to full fight or flight activation. And here is the thing, every single symptom I just described, racing heart, shortness of breath, tingling hands, chest tightness, tunnel vision, cold extremities, is also on the list of symptoms that people describe during a heart attack, which is why, overwhelmingly, the first thing people do during a panic attack is convince themselves they are having a heart attack. That belief then becomes its own input into the amygdala. The amygdala receives confirmation. The alarm gets louder. The physical symptoms intensify. The belief strengthens. Panic attacks feed themselves. The fear of the panic attack becomes the fuel for the panic attack. This is called the panic cycle, and understanding it is the first thing that breaks it. Now, here is what nobody tells you about panic attacks. They have a ceiling. The physiological storm of a panic attack cannot be sustained indefinitely. Your adrenal glands have a finite supply of adrenaline. The peak of a panic attack, the most intense, most terrifying phase, typically lasts between 3 and 10 minutes. After that, if nothing adds new fuel to the fire, the physical symptoms begin to subside. Your nervous system shifts from fight or flight mode back toward baseline. A panic attack cannot kill you. It cannot make you go crazy. It cannot go on forever. The problem is that nobody tells people this while it's happening. So the peak feels endless. It feels like escalating towards something catastrophic. And that belief, it is going to keep getting worse, is what most prolongs the attack. Now let me tell you about the technique. In January 2023, researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine published a study in the journal Cell Reports Medicine. It was the first peer-reviewed, randomized controlled trial to directly compare different breathwork techniques against each other and against mindfulness meditation. They tested the physiological sigh, and what they found was remarkable. Cyclic physiological sighing reduced cortisol levels and improved mood more effectively than mindfulness meditation of the same duration. Participants who practiced it showed a daily increase in positive affect of 1.91 points compared to 1.22 points for meditation. And their breathing slowed not just during the exercise, but throughout the rest of the day, indicating a lasting effect on the nervous system, not just a temporary one. The researchers, including neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman and psychiatry professor Dr. David Spiegel, were clear. This technique works because it targets the precise physiological mechanism that drives the panic spiral, the carbon dioxide buildup in the bloodstream that sends the suffocation alarm signal to your amygdala. Let me explain. When you are panicking, you breathe rapidly and shallowly. This feels like you are getting more air. But what is actually happening is the opposite. Rapid, shallow breathing expels carbon dioxide too quickly. And low carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, counterintuitively, is what makes you feel like you cannot breathe. It is what causes the tingling in your hands. It is what makes the panic feel like suffocation, even when your oxygen levels are completely normal. The physiological sigh directly corrects this. Here is how it works. And I want you to do this right now, as I explain it, so your body learns the pattern. 2 sharp inhales through your nose. The first inhale fills your lungs. The second short inhale, immediately after, without exhaling, tops them completely off, reinflating any collapsed air sacs in the lungs. Then 1 long, slow exhale through your mouth. The double inhale maximizes the surface area of your lungs for gas exchange. The slow exhale activates the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running from your brainstem to your gut, which directly engages the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the counterweight to fight or flight. It is your body's braking system. 1 cycle takes approximately 30 seconds. Most people feel a measurable shift after 1 to 3 cycles. The full effect for acute panic is typically achieved within 5 minutes of practice. But here is the part that makes this technique genuinely different from everything else you may have tried. It works when your cognitive system is overwhelmed. When you are in the middle of a panic attack, your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain is offline. The amygdala has taken over. This is why techniques that require counting, or focused attention, or logical reframing often fail during actual panic. You cannot think your way out of a panic attack because the thinking part of your brain has been bypassed. The physiological sigh does not require your thinking brain. It triggers an automatic nervous system response. You do not need to count. You do not need to concentrate. You just need to inhale twice and exhale once. Your nervous system does the rest. As David Spiegel from Stanford said, "What's interesting about the breath is that it sits right on the edge of conscious control. Most of the time, breathing is automatic, like digestion and heartbeat. But you can very easily take over and control your breath, which then affects your entire physiology and stress response. That is the key. You cannot directly control your heart rate during a panic attack. You cannot directly control your adrenaline levels. You cannot directly command your amygdala to stand down. But you can control your breath, and through your breath, you can reach into your nervous system and change everything else. Now I want to give you something even more powerful, because the physiological sigh stops a panic attack in progress. But there are two other things I want you to know. One that prevents attacks from escalating, and one that reduces their frequency over time. The first is this. When a panic attack starts, in those first few seconds when you feel it beginning, do not fight it. I know that sounds wrong. Everything in you wants to resist it, to make it stop, to control it. But resistance is fuel. Every time you resist the sensations of a panic attack, every time you fight the racing heart, grip against the tightness, try to force your body to stop, you are sending input back to the amygdala that says, the threat is real. And the amygdala responds by escalating. The technique that works, and this is counterintuitive enough that I want you to really hear it, is to move toward the sensations, not away from them. The next time you feel a panic attack starting, say to yourself out loud if you can, "This is my nervous system. It is doing its job. I am not in danger." And then start your physiological sighs. You are not pretending the sensations are not there. You are refusing to add fear of the fear on top of them. And that refusal, and that single act of not fighting, removes the most powerful accelerant from the panic cycle. The second thing I want to give you is this. Over time, with consistent practice, the physiological side changes your baseline. The Stanford researchers found that participants who practiced daily experienced a lasting decrease in resting breathing rate throughout the day. A lower resting breathing rate is directly associated with lower baseline anxiety, lower cortisol output, and lower amygdala sensitivity. In other words, daily practice does not just stop panic attacks when they happen. It changes the nervous system conditions that make panic attacks likely in the first place. 5 minutes each morning. 2 inhales, 1 long exhale. Repeat for 5 minutes. That is the entire practice. Now I want to come back to James. After 6 sessions together, James understood exactly what his brain was doing during those attacks. He had practiced the physiological sigh until it was automatic. He had learned to move toward the sensations rather than fight them. His last panic attack was 3 months before I last spoke to him. He's back in the office. He is driving again. He's at the gym 3 times a week. His world, which had been shrinking for months, had expanded back to its full size. That is what understanding and the right technique can do. If you are having panic attacks right now, I want you to do 3 things. First, practice the physiological sigh today. 2 sharp inhales through your nose, 1 long slow exhale through your mouth. Do this for 5 minutes right now, and again tomorrow morning, and the morning after that. Second, speak to a mental health professional. Panic disorder responds extremely well to a specific approach within CBT called interoceptive exposure, where you gradually and safely learn to be less afraid of the physical sensations your body produces. It is highly effective, and the results are lasting. You do not have to figure this out alone. Third, share this video with someone who needs it, because somewhere in your life there is someone who has had what they thought was a heart attack and been sent home from the hospital confused and frightened. Someone who has been quietly shrinking their world to avoid triggers. Someone who has been living with this for months or years and never had anyone explain to them what is actually happening. You now know, and knowing, truly understanding, is the beginning of the end of panic. Type in the comments. Have you ever experienced a panic attack? And did anyone ever explain to you what was actually happening in your brain? I read every single comment. If you have a question, ask it here. If this video helped you, please share it right now. You might be giving someone their life back. Subscribe for a new video every week. Next week, I'm going to cover something that affects a huge number of people, and almost nobody talks about openly: the psychology of overthinking. Not just tips to stop it, but what is actually happening in your brain when you cannot stop, why some people are far more prone to it than others, and the single cognitive shift that changes everything. I will see you there. I am Dr. Alex. Panic attacks are terrifying. They are not dangerous, and they are completely treatable. Remember that the next time your amygdala tries to tell you otherwise.